Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first Marvelous Mondays, presented by Ketel One, Another Round, Another Rally, and Portland Cocktail Week. Today, we are going to see how to master your garnish game and level up your cocktail style through the lens of garnish master Katie Renshaw. If you're a garnish geek like me, you are in for a treat. My name is Fanny Chu. I am the head bartender of a tropical cocktail bar in a little oasis in Brooklyn, and this is my incredible co-host, Amy Ward.
Hello, and thank you, Fanny. My name's Amy Ward. I'm also known as the Help Tender. I am based out of Chicago, Illinois, by way of Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm going to introduce our lovely educator for today, my neighbor, my new.
Is she frozen for anyone else?
Yes, I think that's what's happening right now.
Oh no, can you hear me though?
Yeah, no, now
yes,
we can.
Now we can.
Oh, sorry. All right, well, let me try again for introducing Katie. So Katie Renshaw is a bartender in Chicago. She's our educator for today. Her passion for cocktail and spirits originally drove her to seek mentorship behind the bar, and her true love for bartending accelerated her career at a rapid rate, and her creativity led her to fast success. She has bartended at some of Chicago's top bars and has seen success in several bartending competitions. She was the national runner-up in Speed Rack Season 7, and most notably won the title of the 2019 U.S. World Class Bartender of the Year. So, Katie, if you are ready, take it away for us.
Yes, awesome. I am so excited to kick off these Marvelous Mondays. This is the first Marvelous Monday, and so I don't even really know what I'm in for, but I'm super excited to hopefully teach you all some great things about garnish, and even more fun about capturing your garnishes in a photograph to share on your social media channels of any type. And I will preface all of this with the fact that I am not a professional photographer. I am a professional bartender, but not a professional photographer. So all the things I'm going to be teaching you today are things that you can do at home with your phone, with little to no equipment of any kind, and just kind of, I'm going to be walking through tips of like when I'm photographing a cocktail, things that I might do that are kind of out of the norm of what you might do at the bar, and things that make the drink look as beautifully as humanly possible. Might not be practical things you do in the bar, but they're going to make for a really beautiful picture. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through a few different garnish techniques, photo techniques. I'm going to talk a little bit about editing, about Instagram, and the different size ratios, taking photos, stories versus posts, and yeah, lots of different fun stuff. But let's start with some garnishes, I guess, first. And I'm gonna do a little view like this for most of my garnish work. If you could see that, that looks good to everybody.
Super good.
Yes.
Great, cool. And you can see my lovely Ketel One, because we're gonna walk through some garnishes for a very simple cocktail, a 1-in-1, Ketel One and soda. And I'm gonna be using 3 different types of mixer sort of thing. They're all carbonated things that you can easily make at home. And I'm going to be walking through different garnishes to make those cocktails look extra special. And so first I'm going to talk a little bit about glassware. So this is the first glass I'm going to be using. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
So I really like this glass because it's actually a vase. You can see it has very thick walls, but it photographs really well because it is really tall and narrow, and so it always looks really stunning in photographs to me. It also has the benefit of being the exact width of like a 1x1 cube, so you can have a like row of ice cubes that fit perfectly in the glass, and that's always really nice in order to take like a picture where the ice looks really good. And I polished all of this glassware beforehand. Polishing your glassware is really important for taking pictures, making sure there are no smudges on the glass. And when I talk about editing too, I'll talk about some tricks for if you do get a smudge on the glass, how you can kind of edit that out after the fact. So the first garnish we're going to be making, I'm going to grab some ice real quick.
So Katie, do you normally look for other kind of vessels in the house that would work in place of a glassware? I mean, what are you looking for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely a lot of the times use stuff that's not actually meant to be glassware. So vases are always a good one. Candle holders can be a good one. These are also great tricks for if you're like shopping vintage, you can look for things like this. vases, candle holders, small planters, especially for like large format cocktails. They make great like glassware alternatives, things that like aren't technically glassware, but you can use for photographs or for maybe competitions. I like to think about like photographing cocktails kind of similarly to the way I think about competitions. They both give you an opportunity to do something really fancy at home that may not be practical at the bar, but you can photograph in really kind of like a one of a kind, like once in a lifetime moment cocktail. And that's how I kind of like to think about it. So we're gonna start, let me talk about ice for a second, actually, now that I grabbed my ice. So in all the photographs I'm gonna be doing today, I am using regular ice that I made in like a 1x1, hold on, I'll show you the tray, a 1x1 like silicone tray like this. Mm-hmm. And so, especially because we're doing a clear cocktail, I like using clear ice for some of my photographs, but when you're shooting a clear cocktail, it can almost blend in too much because you have a clear glass, you have clear ice, and you have clear liquid. So it can look kind of one-dimensional. Like it looks great in person, as we all know, when you go to a bar and you get like a perfect highball with a clear piece of ice, it looks so beautiful. But when it's not, like when you're looking at it through a photograph, it doesn't really quite translate the same. It kind of just looks like one note, unless it's like a low enough glass where you get that nice like peak of ice that you see. And for something tall like this, it's almost better to just use regular like cloudy ice. And so I'm going to be doing in this first cocktail in this like tall narrow glass, I'm going to do a cucumber ribbon, which is one of the kind of classic, marvelous Ketel One garnishes. So the best way to do these cucumber ribbons is to use a Y peeler, which everyone should have in their bar. And this is a really easy but really stunning garnish that you can do. And so I like to just start with the cucumber whole like this, and I'll peel a little section off of one side, kind of give it like a flat base. I'm actually going to do two.
Hey, Katie, do you
we don't waste
type of cucumber that you use, like an English versus like a regular?
Yes, totally. This is an English cucumber. It's because they'll be longer and thinner and they won't have as many seeds, if seeds at all. So it makes it a lot better because the seeds will actually, you'll see when I start to kind of peel it down, you'll see that the seeds will cause it to like split in half. And so it's not one long solid piece. And so you don't want that. And so we don't waste in this house. So I'm going to save all these little cucumber pieces and make a little cucumber salad later. But that gives you a little base so you can have it flat on one side. And then you start the real work. And we'll start peeling some off until you get kind of a nice, and like I said, you can save these, make a little cucumber salad. That's usually what I do with these. Peel them off until you get like, I like to go until I hit the seeds, but the whole thing isn't seeds. That's kind of like the happy place because you still have like a nice, like we're about to be there, as you can see. Because the seeds will cause, like I said, will cause it to split. So see, now I have one that's like some seeds, some not. It's got like a nice like level of dimension to it. So I'm gonna keep that one. Put all these aside for my little salad later. Now that we've got our ribbon, I will start building our cocktail. Get some cubes into this glass here. Like I said, I love this glass because it just fits the cubes perfectly. We're going to start with that many, and I'll put more after I build the cocktail here. And even though I'm just photographing this cocktail, I still want to drink it afterwards responsibly. So I'm going to measure my Ketel One here.
Responsibility really is key throughout this entire programming.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and especially during quarantine, it's nice to be able to sip something responsibly. So we're filling this up with soda here. And I don't quite fill it all the way, and I'll tell you why when we get over to like our staging area. But I'm gonna start tucking this cucumber ribbon in. Like I said, the ice is really tight in this glass. So a lot of times it takes me like a couple tries, or I might have to move the ice around with some tweezers. But again, this is the beauty of being able to do this at home and photograph it. You don't have to like, you don't have a guest waiting for this cocktail. It's you. So I'm tucking it in and just curling around here. Of course, it's not like cooperating with me because it's live TV.
Well, that's perfect. Everybody needs to know nothing is as easy as it seems.
As perfect as it seems, yeah.
It takes hard work and dedication.
The magic of the lens, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So you don't
Okay,
recommend
we're good.
doing this during a competition?
I mean, I've done this during competition. I've put it in the glass beforehand. But see, like that didn't take too crazy long. And now we have a nice, lovely ribbon there. And I'm gonna actually accentuate this with some dill. I know like mint is kind of a traditional go-to with cucumber, but I like using other aromatic herbs as well. And something fun I like to do too, the way like the shape of the ribbon kind of comes up like that, I kind of like to tuck the herbs in behind and make them like an extension of the ribbon.
Ooh.
So it's like this kind of tail almost. Can't even tell how that looks to you guys, so hopefully good.
I'm very pro dill.
Pro dill. I'm very pro dill too. I like anything like savory like that. And all right, we're gonna switch to my other camera because I'm gonna show you how I would frame this cocktail in a photo. So we're gonna go switch over to my other camera. All right, yes. As long as can you still hear me, everyone?
Yep.
All right, and so before I set this cocktail up, I'm actually gonna talk about why I like to shoot over here. If anyone follows me on Instagram, you have probably seen this surface and these skateboards in the background a few times. And I like this surface because it's interesting without being too interesting. Like it's kind of like it's all kind of in the same color family, but it has texture. It's like when I edit it, I can get a lot of different like colors out of it, but it's not going to distract from the cocktail at all. And I also like shooting where the corner of the table is visible instead of like shooting straight on where the sides of the table are going to be parallel to where I'm shooting the cocktail, because it gives kind of more like background interest, even when there's not really much in the background. Like we only have, this is kind of me demonstrating like a very simple background and how to shoot something where the cocktail is the main focus. And you might see this little piece of tape. I actually staged this like shooting area beforehand with just the glass before I made the cocktail. And so I just tape like the area where I want the glass to be.
Perfect.
We're gonna put the cocktail in our shot there. And so this is on my phone, so you can see like kind of where I'm framing this cocktail in the shot. And anyone who's actually into photography has probably heard of the rule of thirds. And that means like thinking about the frame as like having like 3 different sections. So it's got 2 lines vertically and horizontally that split it up. And you want your object to kind of be either at one of the intersections of those 2 lines or on one of the lines. So you can kind of see this is on like the first line that will split it vertically. And so that's how I kind of like to shoot. Again, there are lots of wonderful photographers who shoot cocktails dead on. I'm just not one of them. And so I'm showing you kind of how I like to do things and how I like to shoot cocktails.
Work those angles, baby.
What?
You got to work those angles, baby.
Oh yeah, yeah.
How do you deal with anti-glare? Like,
what'd you say?
How do you deal with like anti-glare? Like,
you mean like the glare you can see on like the boards and stuff like that and on the glass?
Or on the drink itself? Because like a lot of times when you're doing photo shoots, they want to like not have that glare to like.
So personally, I like everything to look as natural as possible. I use like all natural light. I like almost never use artificial light. So to me, like the glare, it all like the reflection off the glass to me looks natural. And so I never really do much to correct that in any way. But this is like how I would stage this cocktail and how I staged this cocktail for this shoot. And so I kind of talked about like I didn't actually do this on this, but normally when I make a cocktail for a photo, I'll actually pour the cocktail at the site of the photo, because when you pick up a cocktail and move it around, you can get these kind of like slosh lines at the top that you can see really clearly in a photo. So a lot of times that's why I tape it like that, so I can have like the glass ready and my camera ready and my phone ready. So like I have my phone on a tripod right now, but you could certainly shoot this freehand completely. And normally I'll like finish topping it off here at the place so it doesn't have any of those splash marks. So it's like a clean wash line at the top there. And so what was I gonna say? Oh, also, yeah, I talked about like how you can get like maybe some smudge marks on the glasses as you're moving it over or anything like that, or maybe you'll get some condensation that will drip onto the surface here and show a mark. Most photo editing apps on iPhone or Android are gonna have some sort of patch function. And so it basically means you can like edit a piece of the table so it looks like another piece of the table. So you can use a little patch to cover that up like in post. Haha, I talk like I'm a pro, but I really don't know anything. So I'm going to show the original photo that I took of this, if they'll bring it up, the actual photo.
Katie, while we're waiting for the photo to come up, can I ask you a question about the garnish itself?
Yeah, of course.
So we had some questions that came in from our viewers, and they wanted to know if you're doing this in a actual bar setting, can you peel these garnishes? Can you peel these cucumber slices before shift or have them on shift? And if so, what's the best way to hold them? What are your parameters for that?
Okay, so I have done this in advance before. It does not work super well because they're very thin and they'll start to curl.
Okay.
And it'll like the sides will actually, sorry, can you see my hands? The sides will like start to curl in. And so then they don't lay flat in a glass like that. So if you are going to do it in a bar, it's actually better to do it like a la minute. I work in a bar currently that does all a la minute garnishes, but I know that that is not like practical for many people. There are other things that you can do this same technique, the same ribbon technique with though, that don't have the same issue. So you can kind of experiment with some other things. Like I've done it with celery before, and that doesn't really have the same issue. I've seen it done with rhubarb. I don't think that has the same issue because it's kind of a similar texture to celery. But I would recommend not doing it with cucumber unless you can do it a la minute because it does curl really quickly. You can even see kind of in the bottom. This is one sitting here and it's starting to curl. But let's look at the photo, the first photo that I took of this. So this is an unedited photo that I took straight from my iPhone. And so all I did was I made sure it was in the part of the frame. I didn't worry too much about this because I know I'm going to edit it. I didn't use portrait mode, and I'm going to talk about that in a second because I think that portrait mode tries to mimic something that real cameras do with depth of field that the phone doesn't really have the full capabilities of. So I like to start not portrait mode and just take the photo, really nice, clear photo. Another thing I want to point out about this photo is that when I shoot glassware, I really like to make sure that you can see both the front edge of the glass and the back edge of the glass. Does that make sense? Like, so you're not shooting it completely dead on because it can almost look like because it's a circle, the edges will almost never line up perfectly. So when you're shooting as like an amateur, like I am, I like to make sure I can see kind of both edges of the glass. So it looks like I can like grab it and take a sip and it doesn't look like kind of this strange flat object this object that I'm trying to make look like a flat object. I kind of like to see that dimension. So that's something I always pay attention to when I'm shooting is like seeing both edges of the glass. What else? Okay, so just got this clear photo. This is completely unedited. And so I'm gonna bring up the next photo, which is an edited version of the same photo. Okay, so you can see that it has that like portrait mode effect, right? Like the background is a little blurry. So I use this app that I really love that I think is great for like amateurs or like iPhone photographers. It's called Focus, F-O-C-O-S. And it allows you to do depth of field like adjustments after the fact. So it's much better than portrait mode and much more like customizable and adjustable. And so to me, I like to take my photos regularly and then do the quote unquote portrait mode after the fact. So you can see like the background, the skateboards are now blurred out and the drink is the focus. And I do very light editing for the other aspects of the photo. I actually am a big fan of the like auto adjust feature on the, like if you just go into the iPhone and click edit, you know, there's like an auto button and that just kind of like auto corrects a lot of things in the photo, like the saturation, the brightness, the shadows, the highlights, and things like that. And it actually works quite well for a lot of photos for like initial editing. And then I also am a big fan of Instagram and using the Instagram editor as well and filtering. And one thing though I like to recommend, especially if you can take a nice clear photo like this and you're able to like adjust the depth of field and you've already used the like auto edit feature on your iPhone, your photo's gonna look pretty good already. So when I'm using filters, which I still like, there's like maybe 3 though that I like all in because a lot of them are way too dramatic or way too like unrealistic looking for me. But one thing you can do when you apply the filter is if you click on the filter button again, the filter that you've chosen, you're able to choose like what level of filter you want between 1 and 100. So it starts at 100. So when you're clicking on that filter initially, it is giving you the full-fledged version of that filter. But I usually bring it down between 20 and 40. So I'm only just giving a slight filter to it. So the picture still looks realistic, but it just looks like a little enhanced. Yeah. So yeah, that's the first cocktail, edited, unedited version of the photo. I'm gonna go back to my little bar station and we'll start on the second cocktail, if that's cool with everybody.
Yeah. Katie, given that I know where you work, is one of your favorite filters to use the Amaro filter?
No, it's funny because I love the name of that one so much. I wish I liked it more. No, the three, I have three favorites. It's Clarendon, Lo-Fi, and Lo-Fi on 100 is like way too much. So a lot of people don't like Lo-Fi, but I like Lo-Fi if you bring it down to like 25 or 30. Lo-Fi is a really good one, and Skyline, which if you haven't if you haven't gone into your Instagram app and there's like optional filters that aren't automatically added to your Instagram. They don't cost anything, but you can actually go in and like add those, and Skyline's one of those, and that's a great filter as well. So just kind of gives like a warmth to the photo without giving it too much. All right, next garnish. So for the next garnish, I'm gonna do like kind of a cool rim type thing. Can you see me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry. Wait, baby, not yet. The next one's on the, sorry, I have a star back helping me with the camera. So next I'm gonna be doing like a cool kind of rim type thing. So for the next flavors I wanted to go, so like obviously cucumber, dill, any fresh herb, great flavors with Ketel One. But another flavor I wanted to explore, I wanted to do like a really aromatic rim. So I did like a toast, I toasted some coconut in a low oven, and I'm gonna be using that as like a dry rim because it gives some really nice aromatics. So I like chopped the coconut up even finer after I dried it out. And I'm gonna be doing kind of like, I don't know, this has kind of been like on trend lately, at least in like cocktail photographs, is people who do like just like kind of vertical like lines of a salt rim or something. So you can kind of have the option. And because especially I wanted this mostly to be an aromatic rim and not be something you're like eating the whole time you're doing the cocktail, I thought that might be a good way to go. So I'm gonna be just using, I have like simple syrup and a little paintbrush that I use solely for cocktails. Don't also paint with this. But this glass has some nice like lines on it. So I'm actually just gonna go within one of the lines to make this really kind of like geometric almost line here.
And you said you're using simple syrup for that?
Yes, this is just a 1-to-1 simple. If you are worried about it dripping, which I wait a couple seconds for it to dry so it doesn't drip at all. But if you're worried about it dripping, you can also use a 2-to-1.
Nice.
So I got this nice like line here.
That almost looks like coconut sugar, but you said that's toasted coconut?
It's toasted coconut, yes. So I just did a 300-degree oven for 10 minutes, and it's unsweetened shredded coconut, and it's super, super aromatic. And so we're gonna do a nice little, oh, I missed. I was like, why is it not doing it?
Which
the
line
thing about
did I
simple syrup, it's clear. Yeah. We got a nice little line there. And the finer you kind of chop it up, the cleaner your line will be. But I'm gonna clean it up a little bit with this little napkin. And so we have a nice little line of our toasted coconut there.
Nice.
And another flavor that not only goes really well with coconut, but goes really well with Ketel One. Oh, and I chose the coconut because Ketel One, to me, one of the tasting notes that is my absolute favorite tasting note to play with in Ketel One is coconut. And so I wanted to play with that. And a flavor that goes really well with coconut and with Ketel One is strawberry. So we're going to be also doing a nice little strawberry. And something, when I work with fruits, I like to keep the shape of the fruit because I think it's so naturally beautiful. And like I'm talking about strawberries here, but I'm also talking about like just citrus. Even when I'm like cutting citrus wedges, I don't like to like take off the nubs or anything because I like to keep like kind of the natural beauty of the fruit. So I'm gonna cut this just right in half here, but I'm gonna keep the top, the like green top. The one thing about garnish is that there's nice like contrasting color. I think Fanny, you were saying you were gonna tiki bar, right?
Yeah. Well, it's tropical. Yeah.
So, but you probably know all about contrasting colors and garnishes and how much it's a visual payoff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a nice little slit in that strawberry so we can put it on the edge, but we're gonna get our ice going here too. All right, and again, we'll responsibly measure our Ketel One here.
Do you ever play with like color ice, like put food coloring or like fruits or herbs in your ice cube trays?
Yeah, I've done like infused ice before. I've done coconut water ice. I've done like milk ice and like a coffee drink is always really good. That's another one I really like. Like chai spice infused ice is really good with like some fruit, can be great as well. So yeah, infused ice can be really fun as well. You just have to kind of like, one thing about R&Ding drinks like that is you have to drink you have to like taste the drink, wait a bit, taste the drink, wait a bit, taste the drink. So it is kind of like more involved R&D because you have to make sure it tastes good every step of the way because someone's going to be sipping on it. And for this mixer, I actually carbonated some coconut water. So it's the Ketel one is soda, but it's
soda stream.
This is a Twist and Sparkle, which they don't exist anymore. And everyone always asks me about them because they are the coolest things, but there's a reason they don't exist, and it's because they exploded on some people. But that's because people, if you give someone something that'll carbonate stuff, they're gonna put anything they like in it, and that doesn't always go well.
Heard that.
So yeah, so we're gonna be topping that with the. And I'm gonna put this right over here on the side, if you can see my little strawberry. And you know, like I said, I don't finish it because I'm gonna bring it over and then I'm gonna finish it on site. So we're gonna walk over to my other camera again.
Perfect. Just so you know, I'll be coming over to your house as soon as this is done so I can enjoy all these cocktails that you're making.
Please do. I'll lower them down from the balcony in a basket.
And safely enjoy.
All right, can we switch to my other camera real quick?
Yeah. Photo time.
Oh, sorry, that's because my boyfriend turned it off. That's my bad. Okay, so, all right, we're gonna frame this one in the shot again. And so I kind of like, I love the contrasting, like the lines of like the fruit and then the lines of the glass and the little coconut line. I'm gonna top this off, like I said, like you can kind of see the condensation in the back of the glass. And so I wanna top it off so I get a nice pretty wash line with this instead.
Do you ever worry with a textured glass like that the textured surface that it's on might be too much, or do you feel like more texture is better than not?
I think texture is good. So with garnishes, I like to think of it like, what is the phrase? It's like when you get ready to go out and you put on those accessories, like take one off before you go. So I think like this has 2 garnishes. I think that's like the most you really need, unless it's a tiki drink or a tropical drink and you want to go kind of further with it. But I like just keeping it like this has got a few different textures going on. We have like the texture of the table, but it's a clear drink. And I think also you can get away with a little more in something as simple as a Ketel One and soda. You can get away with a garnish that's a little more elaborate and has a little more going on, because I still like the picture to look like you can grab it and take a sip, you know, like not like you're just like it's just something pretty to look at but you can't really drink. And so I have this stage kind of in a very similar way, but I want to talk about taking photos with the bottle in this, because a lot of people take photos for cocktail competitions. And I think that like taking a photo with the bottle is always a good way to show that you are a fan of the brand and that you are, you know, kind of understanding what the competition is all about. And so I really like to stay, when I take my bottle photos, I kind of like to have it right next to it like that, and just kind of a little bit behind it. And so when you take a photo like this, you can kind of play with the depth of field after the fact, where you can focus on the garnish or focus on the bottle. And if you can show the next photo that I took, I'm gonna show you the unedited version of this photo. See, we got the unedited version there. So this is, you can see like the background is the same amount of clarity as the foreground. Everything kind of looks the same. And then we can show the edited version of this photo as well. So see, it's not a huge change because the fruit, you know, like I said, I like the natural shape and color of the fruit. The fruit looks really great already. This is strawberry season, and so they look nice. And so all I did was change the depth of field a little bit. I cropped it in a little bit. I upped the saturation a little bit so the colors are even brighter and popping a little more. And so this is like a really nice version of a photo you could use for like a cocktail competition. And I wanted to show my next photo as well as kind of an example of another way you could shoot this photo.
Top down.
And this is, yeah. nice top-down photo. And I am a big fan of the top-down photo as well. And you can see I kind of switched up the garnish here, because if you're looking from the top, you know, this isn't going to look quite as pretty. And I also kind of added some interest in the background with those strawberries, and like whatever ingredients you have in your cocktail, you can kind of position those around the bottle and the glass to kind of give it some more interest in the photo, and like just take it from the top down. And that one I did totally handheld. Like, I've been using a tripod, but that one I did totally handheld. The one trick with that is making sure you're, because in that case you do kind of want the top of the drink, you want to be kind of completely level, straight on. And so that can take kind of some practice. But one thing that helps me also with the tripod and also with holding my phone level is you can download a level app for your phone. So actually, when I'm setting up my tripod, I bring up my level app to make sure my phone is actually straight and level. And it looks just like a level you would use to like level a photo or like level a table you're making or something. It like has like a little bubble. And so you can kind of see if your phone is straight and like shooting the cocktail straight on. And it prevents you from having to like, you know, iPhone has that feature where you can tilt the photo after the fact, but it kind of prevents you from having to do that. So yeah, that top-down photo, that's an edited version as well. You can see I kind of changed the depth of field to focus on the Ketel One bottle. And that's another great thing that the Focus app does, is I could have focused on the cocktail instead, and it would have blurred out the Ketel One bottle. And that's something you can't do with portrait mode. Like, you can't like switch what the quote unquote foreground is. And so it's something that's great about that app, and I think it's really easy to use.
What's cool about those photos is your drink itself, the garnish mimics the bottle. You know, like the red in the kettle, the K on the kettle is red like the strawberry. It just looks so tight.
Yeah, it pops real nice.
Yeah, I really like the color, playing with like the red color on the red bottle. That's another great thing you can do when you're taking photos with the bottle in the photo. All right, I'm gonna stop my video here, and we're gonna go do my last kind of cocktail and final garnish, which this one is.
Ooh, sorry. Have you ever received any feedback from brands in terms of have you ever gotten instruction from a brand such as Ketel, like to say like, this is the way we'd like to have the bottle included in a picture? I know it's probably a question more for the photographers, but I see all of our photographers that are always at these events, they're taking so many pictures with the bottles in. Like, I wonder if there's ever like a clear understanding of what they're looking for. Do they want it to pop like that last one you just had? Do they want it so the drink is the focus? Like, have you ever
I've never gotten any feedback quite like that. I think because I'm not actually a professional photographer, so I'm not like shooting, like brands are not always paying me to shoot cocktails, like occasionally to repost or something, but not like to shoot the original cocktail. Hey, I got it already. Thank you. But not to shoot the original cocktail. So I don't really know much about that. I will say on my personal page, I don't necessarily use the bottle all of the time, just because I'm kind of trying to focus on the cocktail and not necessarily on one particular brand. But of course, like for brand sponsored competitions, for a brand event, if you're taking a photo, you definitely want that bottle in the photo.
Do they usually want the bottle full too?
I will say when I shoot at home, it's pretty much never full. If it's really empty, I will fake it. So I make sure it's at least mostly full. So I've definitely done this where I have taken the bottle and saved the leftover spirit in another container, filled it up with water, filled it up with something else. So it did look full. Obviously that's not the ideal, but that's something I would do if I didn't have a quite full spirit bottle. It looked kind of wonky or something. So it's definitely something to think about. All right, last cocktail up is going to be a super simple garnish, but one that I always think is super beautiful. And I'm going to show a different kind of background and way to shoot where there's kind of more interest in the background, because that obviously, the way I showed you before, it's a very basic background. This is way more, the background has a lot more going on. So I'm going to kind of show you how to shoot that. And this one, we're going to do some really simple blood orange wheels. And blood orange is super beautiful. So I'm going to be cutting some nice thin wheels here. And I love like full wheels of citrus. You know, I was talking about how I like the shape of citrus, and you could see like the cross section when you cut into it. We're gonna get a nice, good number of wheels here, nice and thin. All right, and we'll save that too. I'm actually gonna make a salmon tartare later. I don't want to put some of that in there. Oh, yum. All right, and so I found our nice big.
Everything in your house sounds like it's good in terms of food and cocktails. So
I love to cook. I love to cook, and I have to say, like, being home all this time has given me a lot of time to do it. So, all right, that's some nice ice. And I'll probably top that off with a little more, but oh no, I left my Ketel One bottle. Be right back. All right.
Katie, do you garnish your food as well, like you garnish your cocktails?
It depends how I'm feeling. But I will say I'm a decent like amateur drinks photographer. I am a terrible amateur food photographer. So so I usually don't worry too much about it because I'm like, no one's gonna see this but my belly. And this one we're going to be topping. I also carbonated some, like you can do this carbonation stuff in an ISI or in a Perlini. Those two things are widely available. I know a lot of bartenders have them or have them at their bar that you can use to carbonate things like this. I carbonated green tea actually for this one.
Ooh.
So it kind of ups makes your Ketel One and soda a little more marvelous. All right. And you see how the ice kind of like floats up. That's why I said I was going to top it off with ice. I think that this is something that like a lot of people don't notice when they're photographing their cocktails. As they maybe wait to photograph the cocktails, the ice will start to melt and it'll make more liquid, less ice in the glass. And it has this really ugly like space at the bottom of the glass that I think is really unattractive. So I may always make sure there's like enough ice to really fill the glass and make it look nice and luscious. All right, we're just gonna be tucking these orange wheels just in the side because like I said, I wanna see like that cross section of the orange. We're gonna be tucking in. I got tweezers too, which are really helpful in this case. And this always reminds me of like garnishing like a Spanish style G&T, you know, when you're like tucking all those garnishes on the side.
Yes.
And so I like to, when I'm tucking them in, kind of get them at different levels. So there's like some that are lower and some that are higher, and that you can see like a few from one angle. So like I can see two, but I'm gonna tuck another one in right here so I can see a third one. So I can get a nice photo where I have a few of these in there. See, like now if I move this ice around a little bit, be able to see three. So now I can kind of see, if I move these around, I can see three in one kind of angle, if you see that.
That's gorgeous.
We're gonna take this over. Yeah, and it's nice and dramatic and like the big wine glass. So I kind of wanted to think about how to serve tall drinks in something that's not just a Collins. All right, we're gonna switch back over to the other camera again, if that's cool. Wait, do I have to turn it on? Yes, I do. Okay. All right, cool. So as you can see, I have my tape again. This background has a lot more going on. I'm gonna talk about lighting a little bit here too. So this background has a lot more happening. You can kind of see that I have like my bookshelf back there. You can see that there's some stuff back there that's not particularly pretty. There's my router, there's a bunch of cords down here, but we're not gonna worry too much about that because what we're trying to get is just that like bright, vibrant foreground of the cocktail. So I'm just trying to focus on this initial photo, this unedited photo that I'm trying to get just on the cocktail itself and like getting that clear and focused in the picture. And you can kind of see, I told you I work only with natural light, but you can see that this light is kind of like washing out the background, like it's too bright. So I'm actually gonna close this curtain here because I'm getting light from the other windows. So I'm gonna close this kind of, you don't really want that, that backlight can be a little too harsh on the photos. So now that I close that, I can get a nice clear photo of this cocktail. And if you actually go to the next, to the photo that I took of the unedited photo of this cocktail. So here's the unedited version of this cocktail. You can just see that it's just, those blood oranges were a little more ripe, obviously, but you can see that it's just, the background's really busy. It's a little ugly, but the cocktail looks nice, right? It's like, there's just a ton going on in the background that's distracting from everything else. But if you bring up the edited version, I blurred out, I did this, I used focus and I focused on the cocktail, and I was able to take take the background and kind of reduce that noise, and now you can't even really see my router. The chords kind of just look like a bunch of fuzz. It's like doesn't really, you're not looking at that. It's all focused on the cocktail. And that's kind of the great thing about those depth of field adjustments that you make. But this picture is really like dynamic, like it kind of draws you in because there is a lot going on in the frame. And additionally, I will say that like, if you do really get into this, I think it's important to get a real camera, because this stuff is all just mimicking, all these apps and all this stuff is just mimicking stuff that real cameras do a lot better. Mm-hmm. So if you do get into it and like learning about real cameras and how to control focus and depth of field and things like that, they will be a lot better. Because like this drink, like the garnish is within the glass, kind of all the drinks I did. But if there's a lot of garnish on top or something, you probably noticed if you've used portrait mode on the iPhone that sometimes it will blur out little bits, right?
Yeah, it seems to kill the actual glass itself. I feel like the edges of the glass get smudged away.
Yeah, and I will say that like focus is better than portrait mode for sure, but a real camera is even better. And so if you really get into this, it is kind of worth the investment to get a real camera. And though I shot all this stuff that you saw today, all the edited and unedited stuff was all done in iPhone, I know everything on my Instagram feed from the last few months is on a real camera. And so if you can either find someone you trust who can recommend a nice, because you don't have to spend a fortune to get a decent camera to shoot these cocktails, but it is kind of, if you do get really into it, it's definitely worth it. Okay, we're gonna go back to, how much time do we have left?
20-ish, like we're not hard pressed on time. And we've got some questions from the audience too, so.
Okay, perfect, yeah. You can hit me with some questions, and I just have a couple like little bonus garnishes to do, because these are kind of like, as I was saying, like having a real camera is pretty important to shoot something. And I think like orange peels and like cool swaths and stuff, one of my favorite garnishes to do in the bar is not something that is easily, like if you want to use depth of field, is easily, like you can't really use portrait mode, you can't really use focus that well. It'll blur out some of the edges of the peel. So, but I'm gonna show a couple citrus peel garnishes if people are interested.
Yeah, why don't we do that, and then we can we'll take some questions.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna show like my #1 favorite for like a coupe. I got a coupe here. I'm gonna do this blood. I have a nice looking blood orange skin here, so we'll do it here. So we got a nice long peel.
Those glorious wide peelers. They're your best friends and your enemies all at the same time.
Yeah, I call this one the Widowmaker.
I peeled some of my thumb off during quarantine, so I feel like I really haven't been away from the bar that long.
Yeah, you just feel right, like you're back at work. Yep. So I'm trimming the edges. So let me move these glasses for a second, actually. So I'm trimming the edges of this glass just straight. And then angling the edges. You've probably seen this, like a pretty basic, like first cut for a lot of cool peels. Just the edges. So I have a nice, like kind of long, what is this, a rhombus? Who's good with geometry? What is this? And then I'm going to be cutting like kind of a thin line, like kind of diagonally towards the corner. I'll show you one, and I'll do it like kind of on opposite corners. We got one here, and one here. This is one I do in the bar all the time. Like I said, we do all these all minute. So it has like these little guys. Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to point to it now so you can kind of see, is I'm going to cut kind of not from end to end, but like a diagonal slit here where it's going to sit on the edge of the glass. I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to show it to you. Doesn't look like much now, but it's going to look cool, I promise. So now it's got like a little diagonal, so that kind of goes from like middle of here to the middle of here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the next thing you want to do is hold it like this, long edge, twist. That's how you know you're going to be twisting it the right way.
Ooh.
And so I kind of leave the little tails out like that.
Like a little bird.
Yeah, it is looking kind of like a swan, like a bird. This is like one of my favorite, like easy but really stunning peels. And I also sent someone on Instagram once, actually a few people asked me for a video of how to do this peel. So if this wasn't enough, I can send you the little video I took her as well. And then you just pull open the little slit, and it sits right there.
Wow.
That's
And
gorgeous.
that's one of my favorites to do. It's super easy and it's really pretty and people always love it. And I have one that's even easier than this that I'm gonna do that's great for like straight-sided glasses, like this kind of a small straight-sided glass. But like this can work in like a bigger form on a Collins, but I'm gonna do a kind of little one for this one. And this one you don't need a long peel really at all. Do a little short guy. So I got like a little stub there. And this one, you do like a much skinnier rhombus or whatever shape that is. I'm just gonna keep making it up.
Katie, would you mind moving that glass so we can see what you're doing?
Oh, yeah.
It's a really pretty glass though.
Yeah.
So we got like a little, you can see like it's just kind of like the width of my finger, little rhombus here. And then I'm gonna be cutting, I'm gonna be cutting a slit that goes up on this side and a slit that goes down on this side, so it makes kind of a little zigzag. So here. We call this one at my bar, we call it the music notes. But so it looks like this at first. And then you're gonna take one side and roll it down on itself and kind of hold it there for a second. Can you see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
This one's kind of hard to demo if you're not in person. Like holding it down. So, and then once it gets a nice little curl in it, you just let it go. And you can see it kind of looks like a music note on the side there, but you hang it on the edge of the glass. So it looks like that.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah. And I really like that one. And that one's something you can do like a smaller version on like a really little delicate one on a martini glass.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do like a longer, like fatter one on a Collins. And that one's like a really good for like any like straight-sided glass like this.
Great. And we
Parallelogram, thank you.
Parallelogram. We learned. It's been a long time since we've had some math classes.
Do you have any questions right now?
Yeah. So we got one back from the last picture that you took, not the one with the blood oranges, but the one with the strawberries and the coconut water. The question was whether that Ketel One bottle was elevated to get it.
Nope.
No.
It was not. It was flat on the table. And actually, I'm trying to see if I can show you, but I guess you wouldn't really see because I showed just the edited version. And so, but it is not, the Ketel One bottle is not elevated. It is just flat on the table.
So just messing with the depth perception on the editing focus.
Yes. Yeah, and if you download that app is like one of my new favorites, that Focus app, and it is really nice for that kind of thing and like playing, and you'll be able to fully focus on the bottle when you bring the photo into the app.
Nice.
do you use anything like, say if the bottle, like if it's rolling, is there something that you use to like keep it in place?
Like tape or like a little piece of like paper towel tucked under each side to like hold it straight or something, but I usually don't have too much of a problem actually, especially like this has got like kind of the engraving marks on it that'll hold it, and it's like flat on one side so it won't roll too much.
Okay.
Nice.
And also people want to know where you get your thin tongs.
Oh, these? I believe these are Cocktail Kingdom. I've had them for a really long time, so I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they're Cocktail Kingdom. And I have a thinner pair too. Yep, they are.
Nice.
Yeah, and these are nice and long too, so especially like in that tall wine glass that I was using, you can really get stuff down in there, and it's great for the ribbon as well.
Were there any specific magical garnish creations that you had for your Diageo World Class winning routes?
Yes. So for the round that I won, I did a garnish that was just a peel, but I used a laser engraver to engrave World Class on the peel. And that was one of my favorite ones that I did. Because it was really, because you've never seen like a peel that's branded, like, because they make like those little brands that you can put like, it's like you heat it up and then you stamp the peel with it and it leaves like a burn mark. It's kind of the same idea, but it's way more like detailed and high tech, so you can put anything you want on it. and you can get pretty detailed with that. That was really fun, and that was something I did for that round that I thought was kind of the real cherry on top of the round. That was kind of the wow factor, because it was all about like technology and using technology to like personalize your swords and that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any inspirations that you that you turn to when you're like when you're R&Ding for a cocktail? Do you have like garnish inspirations that you like get inspired by?
I definitely like these two peels are peels I've learned from either people I've worked with or people I know that I've just been like, show me how you do, or I've been at the bar and like someone has given me a drink with a peel and I'll just pull it off and flatten it out because I want to see how they cut it.
Huh.
And then that's also a great way if you actually just see one when you're out, like if you saw this and you were like, how did they do that? You just pull it off and you're like, oh, and you can see like how they cut it and learn a lot about, because I love like a really cool manicured peel. So that's like one of my favorites, just like when I see one or the things I've been taught. But I just follow bars too that I really, I usually will just follow bars that I have really loved their cocktail, like the appearance of their cocktails in the past. And so if I'm like lacking inspiration, I'll like go through their feed, or sometimes I'll even like, if I'm really stumped on something and I want a really unique garnish, I'll like search for like, say it was a strawberry and I was looking for a unique like strawberry cocktail, I'll search hashtag strawberry cocktail and like go through and sometimes you're sorting through a lot of garbage and until you find something good, but it can be like a really creative way to find something. And I also follow the hashtag garnish game. Similarly, you get a lot of stuff that's not great, but you will get some stuff that's pretty cool and you're like, oh, I want to try that sometime. But yeah, in general, just following bars I really admire. I tend to like stuff that's pretty like elegant and fairly simple. And like I said, I really like the shapes of fruits and stuff, and like peels, obviously you can get really artistic and cut them down to these crazy shapes. But otherwise, like I love just like the whole orange wheel, seeing the like cross section and like seeing that cucumber ribbon. So you're really like admiring the fruit itself and the vegetable itself without changing too much about it.
Yeah. Cool.
So we have another question from the audience. I'm not sure of this. Do you use a zigzag knife for garnishing? I'm not familiar with a zigzag knife. I know like the scissors that have
the scissors. I think they mean the scissors. I've never used them, but I'm assuming they mean the scissors. I don't know what the knife is, if it is not that. But I have never really used the scissors, though I have seen some people use it really effectively in tiki cocktails, doing it with like pineapple leaf. I always think that's like a really cool, I've seen people do it on citrus peels and that's great and everything, but I really like, I saw it with pineapple leaves once and like cut on the sides, so it had like kind of more texture. It was pretty cool. I liked that use of it, but I've never personally used them. I have used like if you were like a kid and you had like used those punches with construction paper, you know, that makes shapes. I actually have used those on peels before to cut out like little stars or like little hearts, and those can be really fun to use too.
love those. So I'm a sustainable everything focused kind of human being. I saw what you were doing with your cucumbers, but what other kind of sustainability tricks do you use when you're approaching trying to make these very elaborate, beautiful garnishes? Besides the cucumber, what else do you try to impart on your work?
I mean, like if I'm practicing manicuring peels a bunch, I'll save all the little bits and make a quick oleosaccharum. I think that's like a great way, because like I said, a lot of people consider this incredibly wasteful, but I think that like the visual payoff is so wonderful and you're not wasting all that much. But if you do save the little bits, because I always do, like when I'm actually making the cocktail, I express it and then I manicure it. So you're getting those oils out first. So I am using it as a practical garnish before I turn it into the like visual garnish. But I think if you can save all these little bits that get tossed in the garbage, like that, to make an oleosaccharum, that's a great way to reuse it. I mean, like the strawberries, I played around with these strawberries, I'm probably just gonna eat them. The blood orange, like the little nubbins, this is another thing. Like when you make wheels or half moons, you'll get these little nubbins. I always like just juice them for something I'm making at home. Like it'll be great, like a vinaigrette or something. And so I can just juice these little ends, use them in a vinaigrette, use them in a marinade or something like that. or just if I want to make myself a little cocktail after I'm done, I can use that. But those are mostly things I use at home for saving the ends of garnishes and such.
Nice.
Dope.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're doing pretty good on time here. Anything
Cool.
else you want to tell the world that is listening to all your Garnish treasures right now?
No, just have fun with it. I mean, just play around, because that's, like I said, I have no photography experience. All I did is like practice a lot and try and figure out what I liked in terms of like editing on my phone, and with a lot of experimentation, I got, I think, okay at it, and for an amateur, and it's been really enjoyable actually to be able to do that, especially during this time, and create some delicious Ketel One cocktails and garnish them beautifully and photograph that. And like I said, it's just really nice to like, that's what it's one of the things I really liked about competing, is you're able to create this cocktail that's like kind of a one of a kind experience, because you're like, you make it exactly how you want to, and it looks so beautiful. But so that's kind of a really fun way to explore cocktails and like styling cocktails.
Nice.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in and for our first Marvelous Monday. And thank you, Katie, for dropping your garnish knowledge.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you for being hostess with the mostest.
It was so much easier with having you here. So thank you to Katie. Thank you everybody for joining in. Thank you Ketel One. Thank you Portland Cocktail Week. Thank you Another Round, Another Rally for joining us and for being able to put this on today. For those of you that are joining us for our dinner tonight, Fanny and I will definitely be, and Katie will be jumping into a couple rooms to say hello to everybody. So we're looking forward to sitting down and chatting with you then, so we can actually get like some face-to-face time. Please join us again next week, same bat time, same bat channel. I will be joined by my buddy from Baltimore, Ezra Allen, and he and I are going to be discussing clearly clarified cocktails. So please join us for that. In the meantime, everybody have a wonderful day. Stay safe, wash your hands, and drink marvelously.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Right.
Bye-bye.
We're out.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great show, y'all.
One
You did
minute.
amazing.